So, so much to ask you about. I don't even know where to begin, because I wanna start with the founding of Pippin Properties in 1998. Then you meet Kate DiCamillo in 2000. But before we get there, I am curious, because your sister is a writer. Is your other sister? Does she write sometimes and just hasn't published, or is she not interested at all? And I'm wondering about what kind of house, what kind of situation produces a family of writers and agents and writers.
And there's a brother there too. There's 4 of us. So my sister Laurel, who calls herself the middle child because it was the 3 girls, and my brother was 6 years later. So he had kind of a different experience growing up, where there was a little bit more money. There was times weren't as hard, and he was the long-awaited boy, right? So he had privileges. He doesn't see it that way, but we know how we grew up, and we know how he grew up, and 6 years can make a big difference. But we love him, and he loves us. So Laurel is actually an amazing writer, but she never writes anything. She's hilarious, and if she decided to sit down and do something, I'm sure, sometimes we have a group chat on our phones, and we can all make each other laugh so hard. Allison can make me laugh so hard. I can make her laugh so hard. Then sometimes it's all 3 of us. Sometimes it's all 4 of us. And so we really grew up in far upstate New York, 2 hours west of Albany, on 150 acres of land. Our father inspected barns to make sure that farmers weren't trying to, that the amount of milk they sold was the same, the amount of milk they charged for was the same amount that came out of their bulk tank in their farm. And then he inspected barns for cleanliness, and he had some more logistical jobs at the dairy league he worked for. My mom was a school teacher, high school math. I had her for geometry, which was a horrible experience. It was a small school, and it's the kind of childhood where you make your bed, you lie in it. If you had to, if you asked for something, you then had to be willing to use it all up or deal with the consequences. And it was a pretty strict and disciplined life, except for the things we got away with that they didn't know about. And then I think probably from the time I was 12 years old, I knew that I didn't want to live in the country. And I started selling corn on Route 12 out of a red pickup truck to start saving money to get the kind of things I wanted, which weren't luxurious, but they're just things my parents couldn't afford, like a pair of white pants I wanted. So we were very hard workers. We none of us stayed in the country. It's kind of interesting. My parents still live in the house we grew up in, and they just turned 85. And all that said, my mom grew up in Manhattan, and she couldn't wait to move to the country. So, it's to each his own, right? So I don't know what they did that created these imaginative children, but something.
Were you big readers as children?
We were all big readers, and we also were never entertained by anybody. Very few people came over. We were 5 miles out of town, So I think that's a very important point. We had to entertain ourselves. And, you know, we always had kittens. We'd make kitten villages with our Barbie houses and play school on the stairs and we always played the newlywed game, and there were only 4 of us. It was my brother and the 3 sisters, and someone was going to be the newlywed to someone and he had to answer all the questions. So we just had we'd watch TV without it on and look at our reflections and make up our own TV shows. And it was kind of for lack of having things, you know. And my brother was younger, so he had Atari and he had those kind of games, which we never had. There was a lot of Scrabble, a lot of I don't know if we had Yahtzee. There was tons of Scrabble, a lot of the Game of Life, a lot of board games, a lot of fighting with my grandmother over Scrabble and her. If we took too long to make our word, she'd start yelling, "I smell wood burning," meaning your head was full of wood. It was in some ways a life that isn't imaginable now, because some of the stuff that happened, a kid nowadays would call the police for. Like, you know, if you were so insulted for your slow thinking, but it was very normal back then. And so I think part of it was the lack of noise around us that made us create our own worlds.
So from there,